Good afternoon, everyone out there in YouTube land. My name is Jared, and this is my channel, Mazda B3K. In this episode, we're going to look into how do we bypass a security lock for your spare tire on a 2001 Ford F250 named Miss Mildew. Without further ado, let's get started. So if you are familiar with Fords at all, and I think other manufacturers do this as well, for a very long time, what they've done is the spare tire gets mounted under the bed in the back, and it's mounted on a winch. And what you do is you lower the winch, and that's how you service your spare tire or get it out if you need it. And what you're supposed to do is take a tool and you stick it through this hole in the license plate, and it goes into a tube, which is kind of hard to see, but there it is. It goes in that tube, which goes all the way down to the winch, and it grabs the winch, and then you can do stuff with it. Well, what Ford also did is put a security lock on the front of the winch so that nobody could steal your spare tire. Not a bad idea, except for when you get something used, like I did this truck here. That security lock, that security key is long gone, which means that you can't use your spare winch. So that means, you throw a tire in the back, you shove a tire somewhere, right? It's taking up space, it's bouncing around, you got to push it all over the place. Super annoying. So what we're going to look at today is how do we bypass that? And when we do the bypass, do we keep it that way? Do we put a new key on, or what do you want to do, right? So first things first, I need to see if I have security lock. I think I do. I think I checked this a long time ago, but I don't remember. But I'm going to go get my inspection cam, and we're going to run that down the tube and see if there's a security lock at the end. Okay, so there is our opponent. See, I just ran my little borescope cam, whatever you want to call it, down there, and there it is. Indeed, there is a security lock on the end there, so I'm gonna have to do something to get that off. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take a 14 millimeter that we don't care about, which I use cobalt, so I don't care about this 14 that I have. To be honest, I actually had to go out and buy one because all my other 14s I do care about very much. So a 14 millimeter we don't care about, and then we're going to put together a big chain of extensions, 3/8, 1/2, until we have something that's long enough to go all the way in and stick out so that we can actually work it. I'm going to work it with an electric tool. You could also just use a ratchet, but that is the plan. So I'm going to put that together. I may have to go scrounge a couple more extensions. I don't know if this is enough. We shall see. Okay, a couple of things. First thing, you're only going to need about this much. And the second thing is the 14 has already engaged on top of the security lock because it didn't stay on my extension. It stayed on the security lock. So I'm going to have to try to shove that back on there. But about this length is right, and then we will see if that will let us get this down, and then we have to make a decision on what we want to do if this works. Okay, here's what we're left with. As you can see, this does appear to be reasonably tight. So I'm going to assume that this is going to be righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, meaning that if we turn this to the right, that would be raising the winch, and you turn it to the left, this would be lowering the winch. So let's see what we get. Oh yeah, down she comes. And touchdown. All right. So that worked. And I can get this low enough that I can actually get the tire off the winch and look at the tire and all that jazz. But as I said, that leaves us with a decision to make. Get this out of here. we can leave this 14 on there, and then, you know, that's it. We're done. We just have a 14 millimeter on there now, and whenever we want to raise or lower the spare, we just take a bunch of extensions and shove them in there, and we're good. Or the other thing that we can do is that now that the tire is down, we have access to this plastic tube, and we can get it out of the way, and then we can just remove the security lock. So, you know, pros and cons. You don't have a security lock in the way. You can just use the winch tool that's supposed to be with your truck and just do the thing. I don't actually have it for this truck. I do have it for my van, and I think that'll work. Alternatively, you leave your 14 on there, and then you've got a much easier way to go about it. You don't need a specialty tool. You just need a bunch of extensions to raise and lower it. So you can make a call on what you want to do. I'm going to show you how to actually remove the tube and pop off the security lock if that's the path you want to take. Good morning, everyone. Today is a new day. So where we left off is we had lowered the tire, and now we have an opportunity to look at our spare tire brace, which is this guy here. Looks pretty good, which I'm pleased to see. I need to clean this cable. It hadn't been down in a hot minute. Oh hey, someone did replace the rear shocks at some point. No wonder they feel terrible. They're Gabriel Ultras. Wow, wow, wow. Yuck, yuck, yuck. Alright, what we're actually down here for is this tube, which should be, it should come out, which is what we're trying to do, because we need this tube to come out, because our security lug is going to be about there, and we need to take it out. And once we do that, we'll be in pretty good shape. This is probably just got a bunch of dirt and crap that's holding it in. So let me work on that, because I can't give you an angle on my tripod. I have to hold the camera, and I need both hands to work on this. But let me get that out for you. So once I had two hands, that was pretty easy. I had to rotate it to the right, and then it kind of twisted and then popped right out. That's what it looks like. Now that that's out of the way, all right, we're gonna have to go above the brace. See if I can squeeze you in there. There we are. All right, so you see there's our socket, and you see it's sitting on top of something, and that something it's sitting on top of is the security lug, and then that lug is sitting at the entrance of the winch. So what we're gonna try to do is take a flat bladed screwdriver and see if we can't get in there and pop our security lug out, and then maybe I can get my 14 millimeter back. Or maybe I won't. Maybe I'll glue the two together, and you know, that'll be my new setup. But that's what we're gonna do next. And here we are. So this is the back half of the security lock, and what I did to get it out is I took a screwdriver that had a pretty fine point, and I got it in right there. And then what you want to do is you want to twist. So get it in like right there, and then twist. And that'll pull it out just enough that you can actually then just take your hand and wiggle it, and it'll eventually come out. So as you can see, the 14 goes completely over it. It's not gonna just come apart on you. You have to separate this with a vise, where basically you lock the socket in the vise, and then you take a small extension and you beat this out. Which again, it leaves you with a decision. This isn't going anywhere. So you could put this back in, put your tube back on, and then just remember that you just need a 3/8 drive, in my case, a 3/8 drive, to operate your winch now, and that's the end of it. If not, if you want to use the original tooling, then you have to do what I just did, take the tube off, pop the security lock out of place, and then you're good to go. Speaking of the original tooling, some of you, if you have a used truck and you've never actually tried to do this before, let me show you what that's going to look like, the actual original tooling. So at least on my truck back in 2001, it would come with 3 pieces, okay? So this is the piece that actually goes in the winch. It's going to have this little cutout on it, and then it clips into an extension piece that you hold in your hand, and that actually has the crank part. I think actually how it works is it goes there, and then the crank handle would be sitting out here, basically. I'm missing that piece. Whenever I got this truck and I cleaned it all up and there's a bunch of junk inside, I found the original lug wrench, which has got this little thing going on with it. I found this piece, but I didn't have this piece, right? I've looked online. You can get a brand new, they call it a toolkit, but you can get a brand new set, all 3 of these, for $35, $45. Or if you want to get it still original from Ford, it's about $120. Still out there. So just kind of depends on what you want to do. If you want to come up with an alternative way of doing this because you're missing pieces, great. If you got all your original kit, great. Now you know how to take the security lock out. So just regardless of what you want to do, you will need to kind of pop this tube back in, and that's exactly what it is. You just pop it in, and or not. I mean, you don't have to, honestly. Just the tube helps you with the kind of lining everything up, right? Line you up with that hole back there. I guess one other thing we can do in this video is I'll lower the winch a little more, and I can show you how to get the winch out of your spare tire if you've never done that before. And we'll get the spare tire out of here, because I can tell, even if this guy holds air, which I think it is, the tread is really worn on this tire, and I suspect that if I look at the date code, it might, won't quite say it's as old as me, but it's probably got some age on it. So something I just figured out, because like I said, I've never actually tried this before with the actual tool. So you can see it sticks out this far, but I don't have the crank bit, right? Well, it turns out that a 1/2 socket fits, well, it doesn't fit perfect, but it fits pretty well. Maybe next size down, so 7/16 I think it is, or 3/8, something like that. I'll try that out, but basically this will turn it just fine. So as long as you have this piece and you keep a wrench in your glove box or something, you're good to go. So anyway, let me show you how to take the winch out of the spare, so you can kind of get the spare out and do whatever you want to do with it, and we'll go ahead and wrap this video up. So for the perfectionists out there, I dug around. A 12mm is an exact fit. So 1/2 will absolutely get it done. 7/16 is a hair too small, I think. I'll double check it, but 12mm is money. That fits perfectly. But I know, honestly, looking at those who watch my channel, I know most of you are older, about my age or older, and you probably don't have a bunch of metric on you, but you absolutely are going to have a bunch of SAE. So 1/2 it is, unless I was accidentally sitting on the bump. Let's see. Yeah. So if you gave it some taps, you could probably squeeze a 7/16 on there, but it doesn't really fit. 12 millimeters what you want. All right, so step number one to get your spare tire out is you want to get some slack in the winch, which we've already done. And then step number two is you got to come over here, prepare to get your hands really nasty because this cable is really nasty. And with that extra slack, you can then you can pull the little holder out. And once you have that holder out, this is a good chance to kind of wipe down and clean this cable. Most of this is fine because it was wrapped up inside the winch, but that last little bit that was exposed, yeah, it's pretty nasty. Might be a good time to work on that. And now we can pull this spare out. We can kind of see how old it is and all that. So taking a look here, here we are. This is the, if you didn't know it, all tires since 2000 get a date code, so you kind of know if your tire is getting really old, even if it doesn't look old. And if I'm reading this right, I know it's hard to see, it says TFP 1309, so I think this tire was made in March of 2009. So she's a little old. Still holding air, which is nice, and that is important to me because it means this rim is not shot. It's got some surface rust on it, but the rim itself is still good, which means I can still use this. That's the important part there. Anyway, that's gonna about do it for this video, because really the only thing left here is just cleaning that up, hitting it with some lithium grease, and then I'm gonna replace the spare. I'll put that tube back in, and yeah. So that's gonna wrap it up. We now know how to either use a security lock to convert over to just using extensions for you to work your spare tire up and down, or how we can defeat that security lock, pop it out, get it out of the way, and go back to using the original Ford tooling. Alrighty folks, that's going to do it for this video, where we successfully were able to show how to either incorporate a security lock into how you operate your spare tire winch, or how to defeat that security lock, get it out of the way so you can go back to using your stock Ford tooling to raise and lower the spare tire on your 2001 Ford F250. If you found this video interesting, if you found it entertaining, if you learned something, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. That does allow me to grow the channel and to bring you more videos and projects like this. Also, please leave a comment. I like to read them, I like to reply to them, and I also like to learn from them. And lastly, guys, I make the mistakes and I film them so that you don't have to. I'll catch you guys next episode. Good evening, everyone. It is the end of a new day. One last thing about the whole unlocking your winch and all that jazz. When you put your spare on, one thing you can do to make your life easier, point the valve stem down. That way, if you go to air up your tires one day, you can also just crawl under the truck and air up your spare without having to winch it up or down or anything like that. You just are able to air it up. Smart little thing you can do. Save yourself some hassle down the road. See, point it down. Easy access if you want to air it up without having to drop it down and mess with it. So, just a quick little tip.